Good evening. Here we go. See, I'm spending some of my Saturday afternoon. Hey, what's up, Talu? How are you? And that message, need to update Nightbot, all the housekeeping things. Hey Butterscotch, how are you? Hey, thank you very much for linking that article for that guy that was asking about his NeoVim configs in the Discord. That was very kind of you. Very helpful of you. Alright. Uh-oh, the sun's coming out. I'm about ready to get blown out here. Excuse me. Alright, so today, or I guess this afternoon, at some point I'm going to have to go because there's some bad weather coming tonight, so we're going to go to a family member's house that has a basement. But before that, I think I'm going to sit down and try to learn a little bit about source generators in C# because I have an idea for a project that requires a source generator and I know nothing about using source generators. So I'm hoping there's like some documentation or like a get started, like a hello world. There we go. Maybe this. Learn. This looks kind of old. March 23rd, 2021. Introducing source generators. Let's see what that's about. I think I read this already. Yeah, I read this already. Also, I do have coffee, so this is Coffee Code and Chat. I wonder if there's like a .NET new like source generator template maybe that we can steal from. Also, I still need to fix my Discord bot. My Discord bot is still disconnects sometimes from the gateway whenever Discord service is like down, temporarily unavailable. I need to fix that. Butterscotch, what is source generator? So source generator is basically like code that generates other code, basically, at compile time. So you can do, and that's basically Yusra. Good luck, man. Thanks, Yusra. Is that like ominous that source generators are needlessly complex or something? Hello, Oxnell. How are you, man? Good to see you. Appreciate you commenting on some of my shorts. It's always nice when people watch and drop a comment. But essentially, basically, Butterscotch, you're literally doing, here's a good example. You're literally doing you're building up a string that represents C# code, and then you're emitting that C# code from other C# code, right? So that's Oxnell, peak development. Yes, exactly, peak development. It's writing code that generates other code. But this can be very helpful Optional, I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, of course, man. I always want to hear how you guys are doing. Hope life is treating everybody well. Um, but the useful thing about source generators, right, is that if you have something that you can sort of template, right? If you have an input, if you have code that you want to create that's sort of templated or boilerplatey, but it needs to be based on some input, right? Like maybe you want to take like some JSON input and output some sort of C# code based on that JSON input. You can use a source generator to do that. I have an idea for a project like that, where I have very basically I have a platform where the data that's stored in that platform is all user defined, right? So you can imagine trying to write like a strongly typed SDK to interact with that platform's data. It's kind of difficult to do on an ongoing basis because users can add models and add fields to those models whenever they want. And so it'd be really nice to be able to have some tool or some source generator that can read that metadata, like the metadata about the data, right? The data that describes the shape of the data. Now we're getting real meta. And then output some code. So I'm just trying though to initially grok this. Like I'm not going to try to implement that idea at the moment. I just kind of want to understand like at a basic level how source generation works and then level myself up. Oxnell, I would like to think of it like the builders that ransomware operators use. Oh, interesting. I don't have familiarity with that, so I don't understand the similarity there, but it's nice to know there's other analogous things to this. The cool thing about source generation is you can really the cool thing about source generation in C# is you can really use source generation in C# to generate any code, right? It could be C# code, it could be TypeScript code, it could be Python code. I've seen there's a project that David Fowler put on his GitHub. I don't know if you guys know who David Fowler is, but he is a very knowledgeable engineer at Microsoft. And he has a project that's kind of interesting where he's basically generating strongly typed TypeScript code, like an SDK, based on C# code, which is kind of interesting. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, this guy, David Fowler. Then he has a project on here. Let's see, source generation. That's the playground source. It's something to do with TypeScript. TypeScript. This one right here. So basically, he's generating TypeScript code to interact with SignalR based on C# inputs, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, so you can see you can kind of generate the TypeScript code based on what you have in your C#. But I kind of this is kind of similar to what I want to do. Only it's not going to generate TypeScript code; it's going to generate C# code. But so imagine you have C# code that looks like this. You're going to get out TypeScript code that looks like this. And I think anytime you can author stuff in one language and just reuse it in another, that's a win. Anywho, let's try to actually figure out how to actually do this. Oxnell, basically they have their own ransomware software builders. They generate .exe for each victim on the fly. Oh wow, that's crazy. I did not know that existed. Yeah, exactly that. Would you just include the compiler in the same generator? So no, the way the API works is so Roslyn is the C# compiler, and so your source generators basically act as like a plugin to the compiler. you have to implement a very specific interface, and then that produces basically it basically becomes like a class library or a NuGet package if you're familiar with the .NET ecosystem, and then you add that to whatever solution or whatever project, and then whenever you build the project, the compiler picks up on the fact that you have one of these generators there. Is what I understand at this point. Obviously, I'm not an expert on it at this point. I just want to see if there's a template though. So let's see, .NET new lists. Let's see if there's like a source generator template. Doesn't look like it. It's iOS. There's a global tool. Console, ClassLib, Blazor. I guess they don't have one. That's where we search the internet to see if there is one. Maybe there's one we can install. C# source generator template. I'll be surprised if there's not. I guess there's code samples that we could look at. Samples project. This might be good. Let's see, source generator samples. This is our hello world generator. So you have to implement this. This is like the entry point for your generator. I source generator is the entry point. You know there's not a lot of helpful information on something when you have to just go read source code. Optional, okay, easier, I guess. I was thinking a hard approach. Yeah, exactly. I think they tried to make this API very user friendly and easy to implement. So in theory, you're going to have a class library that has a class that you declare as a generator. That class has some lifecycle hooks in it. I think 2 of them, initialize and execute, and then essentially the code that you want to write is all written there, right? Or it's all called from there. CSV generator, what's this? Get CSV field type. So this is kind of what I think. This is kind of the idea I have. So it looks like they have a CSV generator, compiler, visible item, metadata. So this must be some sort of properties that can be read in. So let's see. Yeah, so this is almost exactly kind of what I had in mind. They're using a CSV file and basically generating C# code to represent the data in the CSV file. Load options, source files from additional files. Context, add source, source text from. Source files from additional files. Valid property name. This will be something I have to do, making sure I get a valid property name. And you can see you can build up the class, right, in a very programmatic way, right? String builder append. You can append line by line. This awkward I love this comment. This awkwardness comes from having to preload one row to figure out the types of props. Yeah. Okay, this is interesting. This is I'm gonna actually bookmark this example because I might come back to this when I actually sit down to implement mine. How do I start? How do you star repos? Should just be, yeah, there you go. Star. Just like that. Source generators. A small SDLC. Lightbow, Steven, it's me, the guy with onion breath. I'm happy to inform you that it is gone. Hello, Lightbow. I'm glad to hear your onion breath has been conquered. What a random problem to have. Mustache generator? What's this? Some of these APIs though are so obscure. I don't even know what some of these API calls are. Context register for post initialization. Isn't mustache like a templating thing? Mustache template. Yes. Logicless templates. So this must read in a mustache template and then generate code based on that template. Oh, look, there's handlebars. Handlebars.net. Oxnell, I guess it can give me a mustache finally. Yeah, fair enough. I cannot grow a mustache either. My facial hair grows in very patchy. Hey, Lightbow. Onion rings are good. My favorite type of onion ring is a raw breaded onion ring. Don't get me started on onion rings. I used to eat, live, breathe, develop onion rings for a living. Yeah, let me see if I can find one. Raw breaded onion ring. I think these are the best types of onion rings. Like this type right here. Delicious. We used to sell, at the place I worked, we sold a ton of beer battered onion rings. I never liked them, but we sold a ton of these things. They're like 2 of our largest onion ring SKUs. I'm not a big fan of battered products myself, but to each his own. I know that's what you guys came here for, is the onion ring recommendations. For those who may be new here, the context of the onion ring thing is I used to be a food scientist. That was my previous career, and I worked on breaded and battered appetizer products primarily, and so that's why I'm familiar with onion rings. The CSV generator takes an input CSV file, returns strongly typed C# representations of them as output. See, this is exactly the project I have in mind. Only it's not a CSV; it's going to be JSON, but it's the same idea, right? So like just to kind of give you an idea of the world I'm living in. So imagine you have imagine your users have the ability to say, I have a user's type, right? And that user's type can have a first name field. It can have a last name field. Arbitrary. It could have 800 fields on it, right? Like, and they could be different types. They could be for dates, numbers, text, relationships between objects, right? And so if you have an API to interact with this data, you sort of have to build the API in a very abstract way, right? Where you can't really talk about your data in terms of first name and last name. You have to talk about them in terms of like fields, right? And what type of field that is. Well, that doesn't make for a very nice programming experience. So I think it would be really nice to be able to basically programmatically generate an SDK client for the API that looks more like client.users, and then you could say add user, right? And then you could pass in a new user, right? But you can't necessarily do this Because this can be arbitrarily anything, right, at any given time, because users can define whatever data types they want. They can define whatever fields on those data types. So you really do have to do this. You really do have to do it dynamically, right? So you still have some sort of input, but you'll have to do it dynamically. So that's why I'm looking at source generators to do it at the moment. I'm not sure that made a ton of sense, but that's what's going on. Butterscotch, bro, it's 4 a.m. in the morning here. Don't start talking about food. It'll get me hungry and I can't sleep. Dude, 4 a.m., you should have already been asleep, and now you should be preparing to wake up. Let's see. It's hard to sleep when you feel hungry. Agree. It is very hard to sleep when you feel hungry. That's why my kids always know that they can stay up late if they tell me right before bed they're hungry, because it's unlikely we're going to send them to bed if they tell us they're hungry. Oxnell. I was thinking I will do food when I retire, and get this, YouTube and food. There's a lot of popular YouTube food channels out there, so I say jump on in, man. Mix it up. Hey, Daniel, how are you? YKS. Hi, what's up? What's up is we are looking at source generators in C# and how that works is what we're doing. I have yet to write any code or anything, but that's basically what we're doing. I think what we need to do is we need to go back to that very first blog article I found. Yeah, I think what we need to do is we need to get hold on, actually. This is even newer, 2024. This is at Microsoft, but maybe this is somebody who can help educate us. What are source generators not meant to do? Source generators are not designed to replace new language features. Okay, I'm not trying to do that. The second is encode modification. There are many post-processing tasks that users perform on their assemblies today, which here we define broadly as code rewriting. These include, but are not limited to, optimization, logging injection, IL weaving. I have no idea what that is. I know IL is intermediate language, but I have no idea what IL weaving means. While these techniques have many valuable use cases, they do not fit into the idea of source generation. They are, by definition, code-altering operations, which are explicitly ruled out by the source generator's proposal. Okay, fair enough. Let's see, the primary type of source generator. At the time of this writing, September 2024, the .NET team has decided to deprecate source generators implementing iSource generator. Well, I'm glad we read this because that's what we were just getting ready to do. Okay. In favor of incremental generators. This change will be enforced, seemingly blocking access to old iSource generator APIs with versions of the Roslyn API. So do we need to look for incremental source generator? Is that what we need to be looking for? This looks more than I need at the moment. Okay, so we need to be reading updated documentation. Oxnell, your kids found a glitch? Ah, yes. Kids are excellent hackers of any parental system you try to impose on them. Excellent penetration testers. Butterscotch, my sleep cycle is not cycling. Ah, you're gonna have struggles then, man. Sleep's so important, which is pretty hypocritical of me because I just don't care for sleep. I find sleep very boring. Okay, so this is 2021. So what? I'm so confused. I'm so confused. This guy says they're deprecating iSource generator, but incremental source generator has been around for forever, basically. Okay, so let's go read about incremental source generators. Okay, so we just have to implement I incremental source generator. Okay. The defined transformations are not executed directly at initialization and instead are deferred until data they are using changes. Conceptually, this is similar to LINQ, where a lambda expression might not be executed until the enumerable is actually iterated over. Okay, this is a good thing to remember because this will fuck you up with LINQ in C#. So that's a good thing to know. Input data is available to the pipeline in the form of opaque data sources, either an incremental value provider or incremental values provider. An initial set of providers are created by the host and can be accessed from the incremental generator initialization context. Okay, so I guess I probably need to look for some examples of, let's see. Let's just look at this guy's blog. He's got a good blog. I always find myself on this guy's articles. Andrew Locke. I have no idea who he is, but I have visited his site many times. YKS, what do you think about GPT-5? Do you think it is very beneficial for developers? I haven't really tried GPT-5. I saw that they released it this, a day ago or whatever it was, a day or two ago. Friday? Was it Friday GPT-5 came out? But I haven't really spent any time experimenting. 2 days ago. So what is that, Thursday? But I haven't spent any time with it. I think at this moment, trying to keep up with whatever model is kind of like trying to keep up with whatever the latest JavaScript framework was, like 5 years ago. It's just, I don't think it's a good use of time. Sanai, you still look good. Oh, well, that's random. Butterscotch, people who have creative minds have a hard time sleeping because their brain won't shut off. Yeah, I don't know. I hate to say like I'm creative, and I hate to say that it's because my mind is running all the time. It's just, there's so many other interesting things you could be doing besides laying on your back with your eyes closed. But that's just me. If you're completely new to source generators, I recommend this intro to source generators talk by Jason Bach. Okay, well, I don't want to make you guys watch a 30-minute video, so I'm just going to bookmark this for later. How do I swear I know how to use YouTube. There you go, save. Okay. Let's go back here. The domain. The simple enum in C# is a handy little thing, I think is what he meant, for representing a choice of options. Yep. So in your code, you pass instances of the enum color around, but behind the scenes, the runtime really just uses an int. Yeah. That probably is all well known to anyone reading this post, but it's maybe less knowledge that this is slow. Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that it was slow. Okay, first off, it's worth pointing out that toString in .NET 6 is over 30 times faster and allocates only a quarter of the bytes. Okay, so creating the source. I'm gonna step through this guy's code. So creating the source generator project. To get started, we need to create a C# project. Source generators must target Net Standard 2.0. Easy enough. Let's go to our repositories, and then let's go to make dir source generator example. Sinai, believe in yourself. Oh, that's so encouraging. Thank you for being so kind. My friend, do more than 10 hours, and I can't, honestly. I can't. YouTube's UI shit. I don't know. I mean, there are some good things about their UI, but yeah, there are some things. One of the things about you guys, now you're going to get me started on a tangent, but one of the things I don't like about YouTube is, you know how in YouTube, both on mobile and on the the web app, you have this what is it? You have like a subscriptions tab, right? And so obviously the people you subscribe to, the latest videos will show up here. The problem I have with this is sometimes channels that you subscribe to use their YouTube channel as almost a distribution platform, and like they just host their videos there. And so what you'll have is you'll have like a channel that uploads like 30 videos to their channel in one day or one sitting. And so then your subscription thing becomes just 30 videos long of like this one channel. And I wish YouTube would just like recognize the fact that the channel uploaded 30 videos within like a short span and like stack them. Like put them in a stack of cards and don't flood your feed. I've complained about this before, but that's an enhancement I would like to see come to YouTube. Dune X1, do you have a streaming schedule? I feel like I randomly stumble upon your live streams. By the way, you my fave streamer right now. Oh, well, that's very kind, Dune X1. I wish I did have a stream schedule. I wish I could commit to more of a stream schedule. The problem is, or I guess the problem is that I'm a dad. I have 2 kids. I work a full-time job. I have a bunch of hobbies. And so on any given day, things at work might go. If I plan to stream at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at lunch, things at work might come up, and that means I can't make the 2 o'clock stream, right? And so, and then there are days where I just don't want to stream while I code. I just want to put my headphones on, go heads down, and stream. So I don't have a schedule at the moment. The best way right now to get notified is either to use YouTube's bell notifications or hop in our Discord, because I have a Discord bot that publishes every time I go live. Those are the best ways to really just be on the up and up. Lee, do we need to care in S? I don't know what that means. Lee, 50 nanoseconds to 3 nanoseconds. Does this really matter? Oh, you're talking about his where did it go? Dang it! Did I just close that window? You're talking about this guy's toString implementation. Yeah, I mean, probably not. Probably not. Okay. But I think this is just like a for instance of where or how you might use source generation. So, yes, you're more than welcome to poke holes in this. And I'm guessing this blog post was written in 2001. Or no, sorry, not 2001, 2021, and .NET 6 must have just come out. So I'm guessing if we benchmark this again today in .NET 9 or .NET 10, the numbers are way different, because the .NET team just likes to kind of suffocate all poor performing code out of their libraries and out of their runtime. So actually, that's actually, I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's this guy named Stephen Tobe. Stephen Tube. Oh, thanks for subscribing, LTH. That's very kind of you. Stephen Tobe, he writes a blog post, and you guys might not care about this. If you're not a C# developer or .NET developer, you won't give it. You won't really care about this, but he writes these blog posts basically every fall when the next version of .NET comes up, and he basically talks about performance improvements in .NET whatever, .NET 8, .NET 9, whatever it is. These things are like, it's like a book. This is like, I think this is like, comes out to like 60 pages almost of content. And he basically goes through and covers every little thing that they tweaked and did to make .NET more performant. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So if you ever want to take a deep dive, I've never made it through one of these completely to this point. I always sit down with the best of intentions to read them, and I never make it all the way through. I guess that means you need to revoke my nerd card at this point, but dude, I get way too many emails for that bell icon. I'll join your Discord. Yeah, if you want to join the Discord, that's the best place. There's a streams channel that I just ping whenever I go live. But yeah, I don't. My commitment to my stream career is very half baked at the moment, because life is busy at this time in my life. Job and family come first. Content creation comes last. All right. So what did he want? What does he want us to do here? He wants us to create a new solution with a new class lib, which we can do. .NET new solution. A live stream that's not an attractive woman. Nice. Terrell, if you program anything, you are the unsung hero and unfortunately maintenance man of the world. It's funny you say that. I don't know if you're the maintenance man of the world, but you're definitely the maintenance man of the thing that you built. The company I work for, I need to write something to automate the controlling of my blinds because my lighting keeps changing. What was I gonna say? Oh, the company I work for, we make a piece of software that's very no code, and we have this running joke at work where like, if you build something, your name's on it forever because you'll build something for somebody. Let's say you built it in 2021. You'll get questions about it in 2025. Like it just always lives on with you forever. And I'm guessing coding and programming is the same thing, where once you build an application at a business and deploy it and people are using it, I bet even if you move jobs, you probably get emails asking you questions about it. Which is kind of funny because developers and programmers spend so much time talking about how to write maintainable code that other developers can help maintain. But then the sad reality of the fact is that like 9 times out of 10, whatever you build or whatever you create or make, 9 times out of 10, it's yours. You're just always going to own it. It's always going to be your baby. It's going to follow you around for the rest of your life. Let's see, source. Okay. .NET build. All right, that's a good sign. This is a good sign. We followed directions. All right, so we need to edit the CS proj here. CS proj file. How do you guys say CS project? CS proj. how about just the project file? Edit the project file. Okay, so we have to change this to .NET Standard 2.0. This is a requirement. And then it says we also need to add include build output to false. And the reason we're doing that, so claims Andrew for reading his blog, is basically because we don't want to reference the source generator DLL directly in the consuming projects. We just want the code it generates. Okay, and the following libraries include the source generator interfaces and types we need. Okay, so we need to add those as types. This ensures the library will be packaged as a source generator when we use .NET Pack. All right, I definitely won't remember to, so I'm going to put this in my playground code for future reference. I should also say that this blog post is from 2021, so there's a good chance some of the stuff I'm doing is probably outdated. But we have to start somewhere. Terrell, I use lots and lots of open source. I feel exactly the same way about them. Yeah. Well, I feel a lot of gratitude towards people who build open source things. Like the last video I posted on my channel was about transcribing audio locally. And for the most part, like my code is not like groundbreaking. It's largely just calling a bunch of open source libraries that call open source binaries or open source, in this case, speech recognition, machine learning models to do it. But yeah, I feel so much gratitude that people are willing to spend their time building things and then sharing them freely with others. The problem with open source is like you eventually run into this crowd of people who feel entitled to open source. Like they feel entitled to having a bunch of really cool software be free and openly available for them to use, instead of being grateful for it, and understanding when people decide they don't want to contribute to things for free. Let's see. Source. There's actually been quite a bit of drama in the .NET ecosystem in 2025 around this exact topic, where people who have had large open source projects for many years have decided to commercialize them in some way, and for whatever reason, the .NET folks or a portion of the .NET folks have gotten upset and angry about this, and I think that's wild. I think if people want to commercialize their work, they totally have the right to do it. Nobody is entitled to someone else's work for free. Creatives, hey Steven, are you still working on building the LLM? So I'm not. Yes, I am. I'm not, and when I say I'm working on building an LLM, I'm working on the book. I'm still working on going through the book that is basically helping you understand how LLMs are built. So I don't want to make the claim that I'm building a large language model, but rather I'm learning how people do that. Yeah, I'm still doing that, but I haven't done it much on stream in a while. I've been taking my sweet, sweet time with that project. The item group property is reserved and cannot be modified. What? Oh. Did I? Oh, yep. I put this in the wrong place. My bad. Also, let's make this a little bit more readable. Okay. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. And I'm assuming our solution still builds. Terrell, have them program anything and see how their opinion changes. Yeah, this is a hot take of mine. I always say that like people who think that writing bug-free code is so easy, they literally just need to go try to build a login page. That's it. Just build a form with 2 inputs for, password and username and a button for logging in once you've entered those things. Just build a basic login page, right? In CSS, HTML, vanilla JavaScript. Then come back and tell me that writing bug-free code is so easy. Okay, so now we're going to go back to Andrew's blog post here. Okay, before we build the generator itself, let's consider the extension method we're trying to create. At a minimum, we need to know the full type name of the enum, the name of all the values, and that's pretty much it. Okay, I'm having ideas in my head right now about my own project that I want to use source generation for, so I need to take some notes really quick. And I'm going to use Obsidian to do that. Let's see. So an important first step is to sort of stub out the code you want to generate. So we basically need, like, given this input, we know it's going to be JSON, but given this input, then we need to get this output, right? So I probably need to sit down and go through that exercise before I even write any source generation code, is I need to have an idea of, like, what does the code look like that I want to generate. But here's what he wants to generate. He wants to generate this. So given that we can create a simple type to hold the details about the enums we discover. So we'll have a public read-only record or a struct. This is our enum to generate, so that's something we'll probably replace. It's going to have a name, it's going to have some values, and it's going to have a constructor to set each of those. So this type uses a record so that it implements I-equatable enum to generate automatically, which is important for performance reasons as discussed in post 9 in this series. Okay. I don't care for that one. Now you're telling me about something that's going to be covered in post 9. Let's just focus on post 1. Silly Goober. Hello, Silly Goober. Nice username. Terrell, I tried to write code in ARM assembly for a microcontroller. I'm forever humbled. Yeah, true that. I wouldn't even know where to begin with assembly. So I'm humbled just by your attempt at doing it and being humbled. Makes me humble. Creatives, are you only working on backend, no front end? For the source generator project, there won't be any front end for it. It's a library of code that generates other code. So today there's no front end. I am gonna at some point work on the front end for that Stream Shorts project that I've been working on. So right now it's just a console app, but I am gonna create a web app for it, or at least a web GUI for it at some point. But I don't have any intention of writing front end code today, really. Besides, does anybody even write front end code anymore? Right? That's what AIs do. uh, there's got to be some front end engineer here that's like, go fuck yourself, Stephen. Which is to say, like, AI does do a pretty good job at writing front end code. What's interesting about it is the style of it all looks very much the same, which is kind of interesting. I call it, I refer to it as a V0 style. You can kind of tell when a front end had a lot of AI written code because it has a very like Vercel V0 kind of look and feel, in my opinion. Terrell, first work chat, GPT-3. Yeah, you don't need front end engineers anymore, right? You just have the LLMs do all that. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And I let it get to me every time I see a tweet or a LinkedIn post about it. It I don't know why it bothers me so much. It just does. Okay, so we need to also think about how we are going to choose which enums to generate the extension methods for. We could do it for every enum in the project, but that seems a bit overkill. Yeah, so this is interesting because his code, he's generating additional C# code based on existing C# code. And my project is really going to use an input. It's going to use a JSON file input to generate its code. But this is an interesting thing to think about. Is like you've got to have some way to tell the generator, or some way for the generator to find what code you're gonna use when you're generating. So in this case, he's just adding an attribute. We will create a simple marker attribute as shown below, but we're not going to define this attribute in code directly. Rather, we're creating a string containing C# code for the enum extensions marker attribute. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. So that's very cool. So the enum that so the consuming code is going to use this attribute, but that attribute is actually going to come from his source generator, and it's going to be source generated. All right, so we need to go back to that project. And we'll just copy that. Source generation helper. So let's rename this guy to source generation helper. Easy enough. Why is this complaining? Feature file scope namespace is not available in C#. Oh, I can fix that. Let's see. Go here. We'll set lang. Is it lang version? I think it's lang version. To latest. I think that's how you do it. Yep, there we go. Convert to block scope namespace? No, I'm not converting this to block scope namespace. Oh, that's because I don't have an editor config. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't care for this though, honestly. This bothers me. It shouldn't bother me, but this bothers me. But it has to be this way so that when the file gets generated with this code, it will actually have the proper indentation. That's why this string has to come all the way to the left edge of the editor. Okay, so we have our generation helper. That's going to generate our attributes. Let's go back over here. Let's see. LLMs have zero personality when it comes to programming. Yes, they have zero personality and zero taste at this point. Lee, do you work in the USA? Yes, I do. You can, and you guys are always welcome to go check out my professional history. I just put my LinkedIn profile there if you guys want to connect on LinkedIn, or you just want to kind of creep and see my professional history over the last, I don't know, how long has LinkedIn been around? I don't know, 10 years, or at least as long as I've been using it. Creatives, what do you use for front end? It depends. The last thing I built, I just used vanilla JavaScript, vanilla CSS, vanilla HTML. It was just like a single spa type of application, and it's all in one index.html file. Actually, I can show you. If it's a more complex thing, then I'll usually use Vue, or I'll use React. I've been using Vue the most lately. Like the last year or so, most every front end, like more complex front end I've written, has been in Vue. But I'm not really particular to any one thing. I'll just kind of gravitate to whatever's easiest. So this was the last, like, it's like a very simple single page application that just does one thing. But it's all vanilla CSS and vanilla HTML and vanilla JavaScript, all in a single file. So I'll use whatever. Um, I do find if I want to be really productive and really fast, but I need like a full stack solution. Blazor server, I really like working in Blazor server. I find that to be a nice environment to develop web apps in. Terrell, 3 years of AI, and yes, you need programmers. Yeah, true that. Butterscotch money print, like I always, actually, Terrell, to go back to that comment, I think it's funny because I heard the Primeagen say we're 6 months into 3 months of no longer needing programmers or something like that. I got a good kick out of that. Butterscotch, a nice SaaS idea. Bases in your Shorts project. Oh, a nice SaaS idea based in your Shorts project is building a website with YouTube access to it and letting AI go through some videos/streams and analyze them to create Shorts ideas. Yeah, somebody had brought that up. Someone had brought that up in a stream when I was working on that project. They had mentioned that there's probably a more sophisticated or better approach to prompting the LLM on how to figure out what makes for a good short, right? Like they were mentioning, like maybe you could keep track of shorts that the LM had previously generated, and then keep track of the stats for those previously generated shorts, like how many views they got or how many likes, right? How many comments. And then in future iterations or in future prompts or future, I don't know what you call them, runs of the tool, you could include that as context for the model, which I think is kind of interesting idea. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I don't know if anybody wants to make a SaaS out of it, but it definitely, I would imagine, is a problem. Maybe not a problem for big streamers, because I mean, I would figure for like big streamers, they have the money, I guess, to have an editor or to have mods that can sort of in real time capture clips and whatnot. But for people like me, it's been a big time saver for me personally to just I probably only post 10% of what the LLM extracts from my streams, but it's super nice to be able to kind of have a starting place instead of having for me to personally scrub through each stream. It's been nice. Dune X1, even if the LLMs take over programming, the value of learning outweighs the very slim possibility of LLMs taking over. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And even if LLMs do take over, like let's say let's say let's just say it's foregone conclusion they are going to take over. The timeline on which they do that is so long that for most of us, it's not going to matter professionally. Martian coders write assembly code and build a game. I'm not going to write assembly code. I haven't even written C. So if I haven't written C, it's unlikely I'm going to get around to writing assembly code. Sinai. You remember me? I would help you. I don't know what you're talking about, Sinai. But I have seen you here in the chat before. Monkey Man, what's up? Hello, Monkey Man. Martian, I'm building a game using assembly language. I would like you to try it. Well, Martian Coders, if you join our Discord, right there, if you join our Discord, you can share your project with us. We'd be happy to take a gander at it. Sinai, I will edit. I am a pay a person like I promised. Oh, I have no need to hire. My YouTube channel makes $0. So I'm not going to pay people to do things for me from a content creation standpoint. Monkey Man, they are just AI devs and AI assisted software engineers. They'll need prompt engineers and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that software engineers will continue to be augmented by AI assisted tools. I just don't think they're going to get replaced by them. Monkey Man, the job duties will change. Yeah, I can see the job duties changing for sure. I don't think that's going to impact many of us. Like, I think most of us, like, at least me, I'm 32. If I'm still working by the time I'm 55 or 65, my plans have gone way, way, way astray. So I just need to squeak out 20 more years or so of a career so I can shovel as much money as I can into my retirement. Yeah, I agree with you, Monkey Man. I think you're on point. Martian Coder, sure thing. Yeah, jump in our Discord and let us know what's going on with your game. Excuse me. Okay, creating the incremental source generator. So this is the meat and potatoes. Create a class that increments I incremental generator. Decorate the class with the generator attribute. We've already done the first step, so let's create our enum generator. Okay, so what did he call his class? What did he call it? Enum generator. Enum generator. Okay, so what's the code doing here? Okay, so we have post initialization output. Let's see, add the marker attribute to the compilation. Yeah, let's go here. Why is this complaining? A project containing analyzers or source generators should specify the property enforce extended analyzer rules. Enforce extended analyzer rules. Why is that still on the screen? Let's go up here. We'll say enforce extended analyzer rules true. That. Good night, Steven. Everyone, if I don't sleep now, my eyeballs will pop out of my eye sockets. See you, Butterscotch. Thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate you. Get some sleep. We'll see you next time. Martian Coders, do you know Roller Coaster Tycoon was built by x86 assembly language? I did not know that, but I did play Roller Coaster Tycoon. In, what's up, Brody? Hello, In. How are you? Terrell. Unfortunately, all I know is ARM 64-bit assembly and a handful of system calls. So any other language, even C, I don't know what I'm looking at. Really, you know assembly, but not any higher level language? I would assume if you know assembly, you could pick up a higher level language pretty easily. That's surprising. Monkey Man. Also, I'm gonna be real, chat GPT 5 being an absolute flop made me so happy. Even as someone looking to go into AI development, I feel like this will help show people AI is still limited by humans. Oh no, now our tribalism is showing, but I would agree, yeah. whenever the AI flops, the humans are happy. Understanding and just some all-knowing machine that will take all of our jobs. Yeah. See you, Martian Coders. Yeah, man. Have a good day. Thanks for hanging out with us. Oh my goodness. I'm not even going to say that guy's username. Tell me you typed that username into the UI with a straight face. That's wild, man. That's wild. What are you making? I'm not making anything significant at this point. I'm basically just trying to learn how you go about creating a source generator, and I'm using a blog post that I found on the internet by a gentleman named Andrew Locke at andrewlocke.net, and I'm sort of just walking through the bits and pieces of actually creating a source generator. And a source generator, if you're not familiar, a source generator is a functionality that exists in the Roslyn compiler. The Roslyn compiler is what compiles C#, and it essentially allows you to emit code at compilation time, right? So you can basically say, hey, I have this source generator. This source generator generates this XYZ code, and when I do .NET build, when it compiles my code, we'll end up with some generated code as part of that output. And so what this guy's doing in his example is he's generating an enum extension method for all enums marked with a particular attribute. So that's what we're doing. Monkey Man, if I had a euro for every time in history where people got scared a new technology would take all their jobs, I wouldn't have to worry about getting a job. Yeah, I mean that is a very true statement. I mean, this has happened time and time again, and I mean it is very true. Like the jobs that people did in 1850 look very different than the jobs that people do in 1950, right? But I just think, and everyone continues to say that the AI revolution or the changes that AI is going to create are going to happen so much more rapidly than anything we've seen in the past. I'm just not so much convinced about that. Like the world adopts things so much slower than the folks in Silicon Valley would like to believe, which, I mean, that's what those people are there to do. They're there to champion the future and push technology forward and drag everybody along kicking and screaming. But when you think about the fact that many large financial institutions still use systems and languages and technologies that were developed 50 or 60 years ago, it just goes to show that like the world moves at such a slower pace. The long tail of any given thing is so much longer than anybody wants to admit. So while I think it's great that Sam Altman and Dario Amodei and all these guys want to build hype around the things they're building, I think it's a little disingenuous to say the world as you know it is over and will look completely different and a whole group of people will not have jobs in 5 years. I think that's a little excessive, right? Like the example I use about AI is my mom doesn't talk to me all the time about how large language models are changing the way she lives. And until that happens, there's probably a good chance that some of the claims that people are making are a little overstated. I also should say I actually made a post on Blue Sky this morning, because I feel like one of the things I haven't done super well is I've made a lot of content and I kind of talk a lot about how AI is not gonna is not I talk a lot and it might seem like I'm against AI or I'm against generative AI. I'm not against generative AI. I'm just more in the middle. I think generative AI is very useful. It's very helpful, but I also don't think generative AI is the savior of the world. And I can't, and I'm annoyed by people who do. That's my position. Terrell, I'm a very niche person. ARM64 bed assembly system calls on a FinPhone Pro Linux. Oh, that is very niche. I don't even understand what some of those words are. I was just curious how far you could go with the username. Well, you went pretty far with the username, buddy. Monkey Man, yeah, because they want their stock value to go up. There's nothing shareholders love more than hearing they can reduce labor costs. 100%. 100%. Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, we're at some point we're going to hit a bear market, and it will be interesting to see who comes out of the AI race still alive after that bear market. Are you making this for my connection broke when you explained it? Oh, I'm really making this just to understand. The project that I want to make with this is basically to source generate an API client, right? So you have public APIs like Stripe in the world, right? For an example, there's a platform that I want to source generate a client for, because the platform that you are sending API calls to, the data in it is very weakly typed, meaning users self-define the data. Users can define any type of data model. They can add any fields of any type to that data model. And so writing a really nice, strongly typed API client for that particular API is not really possible without doing it in sort of a source generated fashion. And so that's why I'm trying to learn about source generators at the moment. M1 Muhammad. So what this code does. So this code that you see on the screen right now, this is code that I'm stealing or copying from this blog post by Andrew Locke, that basically what it does is it's going to emit a very specific extension method for particular enums in a .NET project. That's what it's going to do. Which may not be, you may be like, I don't know what the hell you just said. That's okay. It's not it's not super uber important. Monkey Man, it's just another technology that can be used to push us forward and make us more efficient. Somehow people interpreted that as super intelligence. Yes, they want it to be super intelligent. They want to imbue the LLM with more things. They want to imbue the LLM with more intelligence than it really has. Sorry, I have to. I'm typing a text message. Has it really been an hour and 15 minutes already into the stream? This has gone by really fast. I've been building my own server, and this thing is a beast. I wonder what it could do. What do you mean? What's your server do? Are you talking about like you built a physical server, like a you're talking about like hardware, like you built a CPU, you got a CPU and some memory and some RAM card. Like, is that what you're talking about when you say you built a server? I also kind of think you're commenting in my stream just so that I'll slip up and say your username. but I'm not going to do it. I'm super disciplined. I'm not going to read that username. Excuse me. No, I want to change the username, but they won't let me. Oh man, if that was my username, I'd just create a new account. I have a Dell Power Edge with some new hardware in it. Oh, awesome. Very cool. Yeah, you should put it to its test. See if you can run some local LLM models on it. Which I don't know. I'm getting completely off topic now, but um, did you guys see Olama got a GUI? How about this? This is pretty nice, huh? Whoever built this did a really good job with it. Um, super good job. And like you can pick your model, right? And then if the model isn't installed, it'll actually install it for you, right? So you can say like reverse an array in JavaScript. And I don't think I have DeepSeek downloaded, but it'll pull it for me. Yeah, see, it'll just automatically pull it for me. Obviously, I don't really have the best hardware for running LLMs locally, but I love that. I love like Olama has a great CLI. They have a great API experience, but I love the fact that they just went ahead and threw in a GUI because I think that just completes the local LLM experience so much, especially for users who are going to just use it on their own personal PC. The Pine Phone Pro is a Linux phone, meaning it doesn't have an operating system on it. You have to install it. That was my phone and only phone for 2 years. Wow. Yeah, I know nothing about that. I know nothing about the Pine Phone Pro. Think because thinking takes energy. So when something comes along that can think for us, people will naturally try to use it for exactly that. Yes, 100%. And I think that that's where you have to be careful with the LLM, right? Usage. I think the LLM usage can lead you to think you know a lot more about something than you actually do. I run now around 30 terabytes. 30 terabytes of what? I don't know what you're saying. Monkey Man, what the fuck? That's so cursed. What do you mean it's so cursed? You mean the Olama UI is so cursed? What are you talking about? Gee, is it still worth learning software engineering? So I hesitate to give really strong advice on this because I don't know. I'm a self-taught developer, right? I learned how to program and code and how to build things purely on my own. Didn't go to school for it. Didn't pay for a huge, very expensive computer engineering degree or anything like that. I do have a college degree, but it's not in software. It's in biochemistry. I had a completely different career trajectory before the one I have now. Um, but in my opinion, it's still worth learning. I don't know if it's worth paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn, but I do think it's still a valuable skill set, in my opinion. Monkey Man, no, having to install the Pine Phone Pro, yes, that sounds like a nightmare. I agree, it does sound cursed. Sounds very cursed. See, so this is the problem with my local LLM usage is look how long this inference is taking. Oh my goodness. This is like taking like a minute for it to reverse an array in JavaScript. And it's just thinking and thinking and thinking. Uh, I don't have a GPU or anything, so I'm guessing that's why it's so painfully slow. I feel like local AI is a really fun thing for people to create content around, but from a usability standpoint, it's actually not very useful when you consider in order to really have an effective, useful experience, you need serious hardware, and most people aren't gonna aren't gonna drop thousands of dollars to be able to run an LLM locally. They'll just pay ChatGPT $20 a month or OpenAI $20 a month, or like I do, I pay Google $20 a month for Gemini. Gee, thanks. Appreciate the advice. Of course, man. It's hard. Advice is difficult because advice is so contextual, right? Depending on who you are, where you live, what you want to do for a living. Are you married? Do you have a family? Do you have people who are dependent on your income? Um, like advice on like what to do with your life is always difficult, but I think if you want to sit down and learn a skill, especially if that skill is software engineering, I think that's a worthwhile undertaking. Oh, finally, after 192 seconds, we've got our answer here. Gemini has a command line version that actually can physically run commands and create code on your machine. So that's the Gemini CLI, I think is what you're talking about, and I have actually been using that. Um, let's see, it's at Google. Yeah, this one. The first thing I had it do was I had it try to build me a tic-tac-toe game, and it actually worked fairly well, although at one point it killed itself. Basically it basically it got to a point where it thought it needed to kill all node processes, but it itself is running in a node process. So then when it executed that command to kill all the node processes on the machine, it hurt itself. So which was kind of funny. Sneaky cheese. I tell you what, these YouTube usernames people come up with. I'm starting on the Azure fundamentals next month. Oh, very cool, man. Yeah, Azure is great. It's a great platform. All right, I've completely lost the thread of what we were doing. Well, basically, what I want to do is I was basically looking at this code. So what this code does is I think what this says is it says after the initialization, we're going to output this information here. So this is where in here, inside this callback, we're defining the context and we're adding some source to the context. And so this is the name of the generated file. And then we're basically saying source text from, and this source text expects a string and then it expects an encoding. And this is obviously the attribute that we defined earlier. So we're just saying it's UTF-8 encoded, and this attribute is just a constant string. So it's so meta because it's C# code that holds a string in which that string contains C# code. So that's basically the API. So I would imagine if we want to generate other generated code, we just add multiple calls of add source. So that's what I'm assuming you do. Okay, building the incremental generator pipeline. One of the key things to remember when building source generators is that there are a lot of changes happening when you're writing source code. Every change the user makes could trigger the source generator to run again. So you have to be efficient, otherwise you're going to kill the user's IDE experience. This is good to know. This is good to know because the thing I want to build could generate a lot of code, or I intend it to generate a lot of code. So the design of incremental generators is to create a pipeline of transforms and filters, memoizing the results at each layer to avoid redoing work if there are no changes. It's important that the stage of the pipeline is very efficient. Well, actually, I don't know if this will actually affect my generator, because my generator is not going to be using the my code is not going to use someone else's C# code. It's only going to use a JSON file, like a configuration file, to generate its output. So actually, I don't know if that's something I really need to worry about as much. Terrell, Linux for 20 years, the Gemini thing, being secure, almost seems laughable. This, are you talking about the Gemini CLI? You don't think it's secure? I'd be curious, why not? Monkey Man, to be honest, I'm probably biased to being pro college, but that's because it's only cost $3K a year in my country. I doubt I'd advocate for it as much if I had to pay American college fees. Yeah, so like I went to a very small school, very small state school here or in Missouri, in the town I grew up in, and my tuition was like close to six to 8K a year, you know? But there are people who go to some schools who spend 40 grand, 100 grand for a year here in the United States. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Sneaky cheese. Which coding languages do you know? I've always used JavaScript, but with all the updates, I don't know what has changed. JavaScript's still great. I don't know if there's been a ton of updates. I think they just published a new 2025 standard for JavaScript, I believe, pretty recently, that adds some new like built-in methods for arrays and whatnot. But yeah, I think if you still want to use JavaScript, it's still a viable programming language. Go for it. Coding languages I know personally, I know C#, TypeScript, or TypeScript and JavaScript. I guess you can, if you want to put those together, you can. C#, Python, HTML, CSS, which I know people debate if those are programming languages or not, but there's still things you need to. There's still languages that you need to know to be a web developer. I know a little bit of Go at this point. I know a little bit of Rust at this point. I wouldn't say I could build anything for a client in Go or Rust. So 9 times out of 10, if somebody was to ask me to build something today, if it's going to be on the back end, it's probably going to be written in C#. If it's for the front end, it's probably going to be written in TypeScript. Monkey Man, do you upload all these resources you use anywhere? I'd love to read them. What resources, Monkey Man? Terrell, first of all, sudo has a cache for about 15 minutes that you can run the command without typing. Oh, that's very kind, Sneaky Cheese. Thanks for the super chat, man. That's super, super kind. Appreciate it. Without typing in as your password. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they handle all that, all the internal workings there, Terrell. So you might go read some Gemini CLI source code and see if you can spot insecurities. That's outside my wheelhouse. Monkey Man. Also in my country, we have mandatory internships, which I think is great for making people actually ready for the workforce. Yeah, I've listened to quite a few interviews by a guy named I think he's the CEO, the founder of Shopify. His name's Toby, Toby Lutke. And I think he's German. Yes, German. And he talks about how when he was coming up, he did like when he was 16. Well, let me see if I can find it. Um, yeah, right here. He says he entered an apprenticeship program um, to basically become a computer programmer. So I think that's really a really cool idea about like having more ways to learn things other than just having to attend school. Like having the ability to go to an apprenticeship or an internship, whatever you want to call it, but basically having the ability to be an understudy in a field that you're interested in, I think would be very value add to the American education system. Monkey Man, the blog post or paper you're reading? Oh, yeah, I can definitely find a. I historically haven't done anything like that, Monkey Man, but I can definitely. Well, what would be a good way to organize this? Maybe Monkey Man. I don't know if you're in the Discord, but maybe what I'll do is I'll just put these in a thread under the stream notification for now until I find a better way to dealing with this. But that's a great idea. Article that I was using during the stream to learn about source generators. The problem is that this will only be as good as my memory to remember to collect the things I'm looking at. so, so I make no promises. Hello, Sagasitas. How are you? Terrell, I have a thumb drive with a live CD on it, so I made my piece if Jim and I decide to trash. I have no idea what you're talking about, Terrell. That's that's um that's a very random comment. I'm not sure what to tell you about it. Terrell, I have a thumb drive. Or no, I already read that one. Monkey Man. Where do you usually find them? Just Google Monkey Man. I just use my Google foo skills. Like and this is basically my learning. This is my learning process in a nutshell. And I'll use this as an example. So yesterday, I was thinking, okay, it would be really nice if the developer experience for this API was better. That the basically the .NET, the NuGet package that people install to work with this API. I was thinking, you know what, this could really be improved if we could make it more strongly typed to the user's data that they're interacting with. Then I thought, okay, well, so how would I do that? The first thing that came to mind was, well, I can use a source generator to do that. I know a little bit about source generators because I've heard people talk about them in YouTube videos and things, but I've never really used one before. Okay, so that's where like I begin. I have a problem. I sort of have a little bit of knowledge about something that might be able to solve that problem. Then what I do is I basically try to find kind of a starting place for the thing I don't know anything about, right? So in this case, it's source generators. So I really just start on Google and I say, okay, how do you build a source generator? Where to start with the source generator? Which inevitably brings me to blog posts or articles like this, or even like documentation. And I sort of just try to get like a hello world understanding of the thing that I want to build. Then, after I do the little hello world example, like I'm doing this afternoon, I'll actually stand up the project or the solution that I actually want to implement, and then I'll start working on it. And as I start to work on it, I'll inevitably encounter gaps in my understanding, in which case then I'll go back into research mode. And I'll Google, I'll talk to Gemini, I'll talk to ChatGPT, try to work out my confusion or clarify my understanding. Then I go back to working on the problem I actually want to solve. And I just keep kind of alternating in between those two states, between solving the problem, learning how to solve the problem. I think the technical term for this is like just-in-time learning, but that's basically my approach. there's not really any sophisticated system to how I find the resources other than just a lot of time Googling. Yo, I have an idea too. Yeah, for sure. Put it in Discord in the projects channel, either the projects channel or the coding channel. Sneaky cheese. In my country, we can actually work at a company while going to school. So you work 4 days and 1 day to actual school, but you get more experience in the field. I come from the Netherlands. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful blend. 4 days, 1 day, basically doing. So you basically have 4 days of theory and 1 day of actual work, which I think is great. I think we could benefit from that here in the States. Sagasitas, Google Food. Yeah, Google Food's great. Hey, what's up, Kajani? It's been a long time, man. I hope you're doing well. Terrell, I meant to say, if the AI model Gemini decided to trash my computer on purpose or accident, I can just back to a working state with the thumb drive. Ah, yes. It's important to have backups. I use a service called Back Blaze for backups. It's a pretty useful service. It costs money, but it's worth, I think, every dollar. Sagasitas. Okay, my idea is pair programming streams. We can pair up, bring become stuff together. I think it will be a smash hit. We can get some big names in here to ride the wave into reaching more folks. I threw it down on the spot. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, some pair programming on stream. I think it'd be cool. Kajani, I'm gonna need to see some coding licenses. I have reason to suspect this code is too well written. This is not my code. Sagasitas become equals vibe code. Yeah, it would be fun. So there's a YouTuber that I really enjoy and like a lot of his content named Web Dev Cody, and he's made a lot of content recently about how he's using AI quite a bit to do a lot of coding. You know, basically using things like Cursor to work on his projects, a lot of the side projects. I'm not sure if he's using it a lot at work, but at least for his YouTube stuff, he's been talking about using it a lot. And so yeah, that would be interesting to have him, if I could get him to try to pair program with me and sort of coach me to be a better vibe coder, so to speak. Not that he's a vibe coder. I mean, he's legitimately obviously a very adept developer. But as somebody, he's kind of more leaning into it, and I'm sort of trying to avoid it. So that would make for an interesting stream. Sneaky cheese. Also, you get paid the normal salary like everyone else. That is very cool. I love that idea. The Americans should steal that from the Netherlands. For sure, for sure. 2:49 a.m. That's crazy. I can't believe I've been here for an hour and 30 minutes already. I haven't really done everything I wanted to do, but I'm moving to the Netherlands. Yes, that would be wonderful to go to school and get work experience and earn money. Sagasitas, we are distracting. Yes, and also my phone is distracting me. I do feel like I know a little bit more about source generators though. So he's basically saying hey, you need to do some smart things to make sure your source generator doesn't run a ridiculous amount. The pipeline is shown below. The three steps above correspond to yada 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 methods, which we'll show in the next section. If you're targeting the .NET 7 SDK, use this version instead. Oh, so there's definitely going to be some API differences. Is syntax target for generation? Huh. The first stage of the pipeline uses this method to filter the incoming list of syntax token. So this creates the first layer of filtering. The subsequent where clause looks like link, but it's actually a method on incremental values provider, which does that second layer of filtering for us. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to need to do this, at least in my project or my thing. I don't think I'm going to need to do this as much because the only thing I'm looking at is that JSON file. So I do need to kind of think about, like, if the JSON file doesn't change, then I don't need to just continually run the generator. But like when somebody's in their editor and they're making changes to their source code, there's probably needs to be a way in my source generator that I say, look, if that JSON file hasn't changed since the last time I looked at it, I don't need to regenerate the code. Yeah. Yep. With your source generator complete, you can package it up by running .NET pack-c release and upload to NuGet. Hold on, don't actually do that. There's a whole load of limitations to this code, not least the fact we haven't actually tested it yet. If the enum is internal, the generated code won't compile. We should mark the code as auto-generated and with nullable enabled, as the code formatting might not match the project conventions. Okay, well, so there's a bunch of other considerations that you need to make with a source generator. I'm just scratching the surface of this whole thing. I'm gonna star this. Usura, you still here? Good luck, wish you the best. Well, thanks for stopping by, Usura. Again, thanks for stopping by again. Hey, Carter, how are you? Kajani, Steven, fill me in. What are we up to? Oh, this is just I'm basically trying to learn about a feature in C# or a feature of the Roslyn compiler, the C# compiler, that lets you write code that generates other code. That's basically what I'm doing. Wait, is it Saturday in America? Because here it's already Sunday. Yes, it is 6:55 p.m. on Saturday. And actually, now that I say the time out loud, I probably need to wrap up the stream because there's some bad weather coming, and we are going to be making our way to some some of my family's house, and I think we're going to stay the night over there to hopefully avoid any bad weather that might come our way. That's one of the negatives about living in the Midwest is, or at least the Midwest in the United States, is you're always in the threat of a tornado whenever bad weather kicks up. That was a great commit message. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. So you're looking for a code that can generate code in your code. That's a lot of coding. Yeah, it's very meta in that sense. You're writing code that generates other code. Yep, exactly that. Anywho, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the last hour and a half or 2 hours, or whatever it's been. I will definitely be back again at some point. I don't know when that some point will be, but the best way to stay up to date with whenever I'm live is to join the Discord, which I'll put the link in the chat. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in a video or a stream, not stream, a video or a short in the comments. I hope you guys are having a great Saturday or Sunday, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye. Bye.